This is called the devil's traps. And I want to look at these things. Every Muslim begins by reciting the Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Why would you begin that when you recite the Quran? Because the Quran, you will go astray with the Quran if the devil is influencing you. You will go astray with the Quran if the devil is influencing you. Every sect in Islam went astray based on verses in the Quran that they misinterpreted. There is no sect in the history of Islam that didn't use the Quran as proofs for its deviation. And this is because shaytan, Ahmad Zarruq, in his Qawa'id says, no haqiqah, no reality comes into the world except it's met with its opposite. Some demonic opposite of that thing. So marriage comes into the world, it's met with zina. Clarity of mind comes into the world, it's met with confusion. And then he said, or if that doesn't work, then to pervert the reality and deviate the reality from its intended purpose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, la tattabi'u khutuwat shaytan, or khatawat shaytan. Don't follow the progress of shaitan. You see, shaitan will lead you by istidraj. He will take you step by step. This is the irbad, that you go shay'an fa shay'an. He doesn't come with all his khubth all at once. He comes slowly. I once asked my father, do you think people sign a devil's contract with a piece of paper? He said, no, it's a long series of negotiations. You compromise your values, like George Bernard Shaw, when they say that he met a woman and he asked if she would go back to his hotel with him for £1 million, £1 million. And she said yes. And then he said, what about 20 quid? And she slapped him and said, what kind of woman do you think I am? He said, we've already determined that, now we're haggling. Once you compromise your principles, then that's it. So you just do it slowly. The first time you don't take a bribe, but then you start thinking about it. I could use that money. Then the next time the bribe's offered, you take it. This is how it works. So Allah says, don't follow the khutawat shaitan. وَمَنْ يَتِّبِعْ خُطَوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَإِنَّهُ يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ. He's commanding you to do foul things, وَالْمُنْكَرِ, and things that are naturally rejected by fitrah. Your fitrah rejects them. وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ أَبَدًا. And had it not been for Allah's grace and His mercy, none of you would have been purified. Because the purpose of your life on earth is tazkiyah. If you follow shaitan, he will corrupt your heart. By rejecting shaitan, you're purifying your heart. And this is tazkiyah. And this is our religion. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. On that day, nothing will avail the human being. No benefit except the one that comes with a pure heart, with a sound heart, with a wholesome heart. So this is what shaitan wants to do. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يُزَكِّي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah does tazkiyah, purifies whom He pleases, but He purifies those who struggle. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Allah will purify those who struggle. So you have to do work. The Prophet said, help me. One man said to him, Ya Rasulullah, intercede for me on the day of judgment. And he said, help me by doing a lot of sujood and give me some portion of your night to help me. In other words, you're going to get into Jannah only by the grace of Allah, the rahmah of Allah. But you also have to work. We believe in faith and deeds. We believe in faith and deeds. Even though iman is tasdeeq, وَفُسِّرَ الْإِيمَانُ بِالتَّصْدِيقِ. Iman is pure belief, and anyone who simply believes, even if they never did any good in their life, eventually will get out of the hell, according to the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. But we believe in faith and deeds because faith has burhan. As-sadaqatu burhan. Charity is a proof of your faith. Prayer is a proof of your faith. Now, what I want to look at, first of all, is the media. When people say the media is the problem, they're right about most things. If you look, all of the research that we have indicates that media violence has increased in quantity, but it's also more graphic, more sexual, and more sadistic. This is the khutawat shaytan. If you watch films from the 1940s, the 1930s, the 1950s, you can see it's slow. This is how shaitan gets people. يَسْتَدْرِجُهُمْ. He pulls them step by step. These are his khutawat. You start watching films, they've introduced violence. In my country, one of the landmark films was a film called Bonnie and Clyde with, what's his name? See, people know, Warren Beatty. Yeah. There's a hadith that in the end of time the shayateen will take forms and they'll tell you fictional stories and you'll say, I can see his face but I don't know his name. It's in Sahih al-Bukhari. And there's a website of actors. The website is called You Know Their Faces But Can't Remember Their Names. That's a hadith. It's amazing. Sadaqa Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So that film was a major change in America in cinematography, because before that graphic violence was not permitted, but this film showed blood, gore. Now that film looks tame compared to what they have out. These are the khutawat of shaitan, and shaitan wants violence and sex are his two. These are because they're very powerful for the human psyche, and these are the two ways that he can really corrupt the heart. This is from the United States, so I'm using statistics from the US, but it's all coming to you, unfortunately. So 80% of R-rated movies, right? 70% of restricted video games, and 100% of music with explicit content, warning labels, were being marketed to children under 17. So they know what they're doing. These are the minions of shaitan, whether they're conscious of it or not. وَلَكِنَّهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They're unconscious. If you say, لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. We believe in freedom of speech. We believe in artistic expression. We're not sowing corruption. No, they're the corruptors. أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْمُفْسِدُونَ. But they're unaware. So many of them are literally minions. By the time the average child in the United States is 18 years old, they will have seen 200,000 acts of violence and 16,000 murders. What do you think this is doing to the psyche? Why do you think America is such a violent country? Seriously, there are other reasons. This is one of the reasons. We have a history of violence in the United States. But our children have been programmed to be violent. Media violence is especially damaging to young children under 8 because they cannot easily tell the difference between real life and fantasy. The American Pediatric Association warns that children should not see any television now. This is a protocol from a few years back. They shouldn't see any television before the age of 3 because of the effects they know that it has. That was actually a compromise because the evidence shows that they really shouldn't be seeing any television while their brains are developing. But these are compromises because the television industry is so powerful. And if you don't think industry has an effect on medicine, just look at the food pyramid. Because the food pyramid in the United States was changed because of the dairy and meat lobbies. Because they warned people about dairy and meat. So they got it changed. So industry, medicine is in service of industry. It's not medicine in service of humanity. It serves industry. They know, Scientific America proved that television is a low-grade addiction. People become addicted to television. It's like tea, you know. I mean, I always say, what's the problem with tea? I don't feel addicted. I've given it up so many times, right? So those low-grade addictions are real. Tea is a low-grade addiction, but as a inveterate tea drinker, I can tell you, it is very hard to give up tea. I was corrupted by the English because I lived in England, and every day they would have tea. I started having tea. Before I knew it, I go back to America where they don't drink tea, they drink coffee, but I wanted tea, right? I have Irish roots. The English, you know about the English. Malaysia knows. You know, they say monkeys know how to speak, the orangutan. They say that they can speak. Like the orangutan, they speak Malay in the jungle, but they knew that if they spoke, the English would put them to work. So they just pretend not to.